Chasing the Murder, Talking News, and this is a Talking News segment where we're going to talk about Chad Daybell's arraignment. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit that little bell so that you can get those notifications whenever we have new uploads on this channel. Chad Guy Daybell had his arraignment yesterday, June 9th. Okay, how ironic is this, guys? 2021. And he was asked to enter his plea on 9 counts, well, really 8. Judge Stephen Boyce went over all his rights as the accused, then quickly went into going over all the counts and charges of Chad Daybell. And I want to go over those with you. And then I want to point out some very interesting facts and ideas based on today and the history of Chad Daybell. So let's begin.
You know, I'm Judge Boyce. I'm the district judge for Fremont County, and I've been assigned to preside over this case. In a few minutes, I'll arraign you on criminal charges that have been brought against you by the state of Idaho. The charges that are listed in the indictment and the penalties for each charge. After doing that, then, Mr. Pryor, I'll ask your client how he pleads. So I'll read through the list of charges first, and then I'll ask for the plea after that. Then the indictment that was filed on May 25th, in count 1, charges Mr. Daybell the offenses of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception, both felony counts under Idaho Code 18-1701, 18-4003A, 18-24031, 18-24034A, 18-24071B3. The count in count 1 names Tylee Ryan as the victim on the murder charge, and that count carries a penalty on the murder charge of it is punishable by death or imprisonment for life, and it provides that if the death penalty is not pursued by the state, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. The grand theft portion of that charge has a penalty of up to 14 years of prison and a fine of up to $5,000 and possible restitution. That's a summary of those charges, and you've waived the reading of the charges. So let me ask you on that count 1, Mr. Daybell, do you understand the charge and those possible penalties? I do. Okay. The next count in the indictment is count 2. That is a count of first-degree murder under Idaho Code 18-4001, 18-4002, 18-4003, subsection A, and 18-4004. And that count names Tylee Ryan as the victim. The possible penalty or punishment for that count is by death or imprisonment for life. And if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. You understand that charge and the possible penalties? Count 3 of the indictment charges conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception. Those are felonies under the same code sites that were previously listed under count 1. That count names Joshua Jackson Vallow, also known as JJ Vallow, as the named victim in that count. And the penalty for those charges on the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder is punishable by death or imprisonment for life. And if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. On the charge of grand theft by deception, that would have a penalty of up to 14 years in prison, a fine of up to $5,000. You understand the charge in count 3 and those possible penalties, Mr. Daybell? Sure. Very well. Count 4 of the indictment charges you with first-degree murder, a felony under the statute previously cited, and the other counts also. That count names J.J. Vallow as the victim, and again is punishable by death or imprisonment for life. If the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of up to 10 years. You understand count 4 and the possible penalties, Mr. Daybell? All right, the next count listed in the indictment is count 5, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. That count names Tammy Daybell as the named victim. It's charged again under Idaho Code 18-4001, 18-4003, subsection A, and 18-1701. And that count is also punishable by death or imprisonment for life. And if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. Do you understand the charge in count 5 and the possible penalties? Count 6 of the indictment is a charge of first-degree murder. That names Tammy Daybell as the victim. It's charged under Idaho Code 18-4001, 18-204, and 18-4003, subsection A. That count also is punishable by death or imprisonment for life, provided that if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. Do you understand count 6 and those possible penalties, Mr. Daybell? All right, count 7 of the indictment is not a charge against you, it's a charge against a co-conspirator. Count 8 of the indictment charges you, Mr. Daybell.
So Judge Boyce will actually go over all accounts and ask Chad to give his plea. And he will plead not guilty on all counts.
And on count 1 of the indictment, Mr. Daybell, how do you plead? Under the not guilty plea on count 1.
So he doesn't skip the trial. He pleads not guilty. So this will go to trial. And we know that Lori Vallow's arraignment is put on hold. And we'll go over those reasons shortly. So let's talk about a few of these charges. So on count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft with deception. We know now that last year, June 9th, Tylee Ryan was discovered in his backyard. Not only was she discovered, she was discovered in pieces. And she had been charred. This says to me that she was not being treated with love, care, or respect whatsoever. And that whoever done this wasn't planning on her being resurrected for the second coming. And the reason why I say this is I refer back to a statement that Chad Daybell made in one of his books when he come across a client at the cemetery who wanted to place cremated remains into another pile of cremated remains. And he made a comment about these cremation ashes and how he visualized how they would be resurrected since they are so desecrated during the Lord's second coming. It seems to me he insinuates that most likely this probably will not work because of the cremation, the destruction of the remains. So this makes sense if you think back about his wife Tammy Daybell and you wonder why was she not cremated. So this tells you that Chad Daybell most likely had some kind of respect or some sort of love that we don't understand for his wife, or their family was against cremation, and so this would trigger an alarm with his children. So we don't know exactly why this Tammy wasn't cremated, but we have some ideas. Now there is a second charge. And this is for Tylee Ryan, and this is for first-degree murder. Absolutely thankful to see these charges come about. So they believe that Chad and Lori, no doubt Alex Cox, played a part in that deception, that event that took the life of Tylee Ryan. But what did Tylee do to deserve such horrible treatment? How to do a correction. We know on June 9th of 2020, investigators find remains on Chad Daybell's property. The irony is this. And so, the arraignment being on June 9th of 2021 was bittersweet. But we can't help but to reflect back on, this horrific day. It was a very horrific day, but also a day that we knew that we were going to possibly get justice. So we learned in the spring of 2019 that Tylee Ryan was deemed a zombie, and that is according to several witnesses, including Melanie Gibb. A zombie is also an evil spirit, a demon. One thing the LDS does not teach, and you can look it up, you will not find the word zombie in their doctrine. Chad supposedly had called Lori, and it's funny how Melanie Gibb happened to be there each time a zombie was titled. But Chad supposedly called Lori. They're talking about Tylee Ryan, who is a teenager now. She's 17, about to turn 18. She's about to be a very young adult and wants to experience life. She tells her mother that she's not wanting to babysit JJ, that she wants to start hanging out with her friends. According to Lori Vallow at the time, this is the sign of a zombie, an evil spirit. Tylee had become a zombie back when she would turn a teenager, so her preteens, around 13 years old. We all know that we like to call our teenagers zombies, at least some of them, because that is the most challenging time to raise a child. They are learning to gain their own personality, become, individuals and independent. And because of this, they deem Tylee a zombie. We know that Tylee Ryan was very outspoken. She was mouthy. She was goofy. She was fun. And she was maturing to be a very beautiful young woman. So on the phone that day, when Lori and Chad are talking with Melanie Gibb being a witness, Lori tells Tylee that she's a zombie. And Tylee says, "No, not me, Mom." So imagine, put yourself in Tylee's shoes, your mother calling you a zombie. We know that Tylee Ryan is not only fun, mouthy, and sassy. She's also very intelligent. We also know that Tylee Ryan had just seen something. We feel, at least, that's my opinion, that Tylee Ryan might have seen the death of Charles Vallow, the one father in her life that played a dad role. A lot of people feel that Tylee Ryan was deemed a zombie because of what she might have witnessed the day Charles was shot. But I'm starting to wonder what the investigators have collected on this subject. Do they have emails and text setting up the plan to get rid of Tylee Ryan? And this is hard for me to cover, guys, because I've been quite emotional on this case lately. I just feel like I know everybody involved with this case, and I feel so bad for all the families. So the way that they disposed of Tylee Ryan, excuse, she was a zombie. The way that they done it, heinous, malice, premeditated. So I might talk more about this a little bit later, but I want to go ahead and move forward. So there was 2 charges at the beginning. of this list that's attached to Tyler Ryan. So conspiracy to murder, and then murder charges with grand theft with deception. So this deception could be used in so many ways. I mean, are they going to use it in a way is it financial? Or is it going to be used to, for Chad Daybell to deceive Lori into doing what she did to the children? So I tried to look it up, wasn't being able to look up all of it, but it seems that it's going to be finance. Do you believe that they might have done this for money? Make sure you comment below. Makes me wonder if this is just another attachment to the checks they were receiving while they knew the children were buried in his backyard. So the next few charges were attached to 7-year-old J.J. Vallow. He was found in Chad Daybell's yard, buried, wrapped in tape and plastic bags. He was actually handled with a lot more care. We know that J.J. Vallow was most likely deemed a zombie more in last minute compared to the rest. We know in September, the end of September, Melanie Gibb is visiting with Lori Vallow. And Lori is asking Melanie to look closely at JJ because he's acting strange. In fact, he's acting like a zombie. He's using more vocabulary words. He's watching TV a certain way. He's climbing on the cabinets and knocking over pictures of Jesus on top of the refrigerator. And if you know this case, you know that Lori Vallow is obsessed with Jesus Christ. It's different from most people. I mean, a lot of people will have pictures of Jesus in their house and they will pray daily. Lori was constantly talking about Jesus, his appearance, and this was the #1 subject of her life, at least according to the research I have at this time. Melanie Gibb was there. They were at a conference. They went to BYU, hung out with Lori and Chad. And remember, Tammy Daybell is still alive during all this. Now, I'm not going to go into extreme details here, guys. We're just kind of casually covering this. So while Melanie Gibb and David Warwick were at Lori Vallow's townhouse in Idaho for the weekend, their last day, they come down that morning, go to the kitchen, talk to Lori Vallow, and they ask about JJ. They don't see him. And Lori tells them that Alex Cox had to come get JJ because he was acting like a zombie and that he was knocking over the picture of Jesus. Interestingly, just a few days before JJ's last scene, Melanie Gibb said that she's talking to Lori Vallow, and Lori feels that the kids are just holding her back from her dreams and her goals. Past emails to Chad Daybell show her excitement to be a writer and Chad Daybell to be her ghostwriter. Before Lori Vallow moves from Arizona to Idaho, she's telling everybody that she has this new job opportunity, but no one knows what it is. Not even her son Colby is, let in on these secret things that she has going on in her life. What we find out later is investigators are able to track Alex Cox at Chad Daybell's house. They believe that he had something to do with the fact JJ disappeared September 23rd. We also learned that there's emails that Chad has written to Tammy, his wife, who was alive at the time, talking about a raccoon in the middle of the day walking along the fence. He mentions a gun and insinuates that he has to shoot it and that he had to burn some debris before the storms come. One thing I noticed about this email, while a lot of people say Chad can seem nervous and quiet, he seems quite excited. In my opinion, he seems very, very excited about whatever's happening that day. We do know that we'll go in better details on my series on this, guys. I'm just kind of doing a quick overview today. That J.J. Vallow was treated with much more love and care than Tyler Ryan. So, on the charges for first-degree murder and grand theft with deception, guilty is what he pled. Not guilty is what he pled. And then on the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, he pled not guilty. So, he is going to trial for the murder of J.J. Vallow. Then finally, the one that I've been very, very concerned about. I mean, I've been concerned about all of them, but I was really worried that they were going to get away with whatever they did to Tammy. So while Chad is at his arraignment in court, you can see that he has 3 of his children sitting directly behind him. Emma sitting in the middle. And a lot of people are very, very upset with the Daybell children. Some of them even speculating that they might have knew about everything. But one thing I'm starting to kind of wonder about, just like many of you, is why are they supporting their father? So let's remember how these Daybell children were raised. So while Tammy did all the nurturing and getting up in the middle of the night, the hugs, the kisses, cooking dinner, Chad Daybell is busy presenting himself as this great person. So he's a great father, he's a great husband, and also he's a great author. Not only that, but he has amazing gifts, and he is special to God. So the kids have grown up in a household where they think their father's this really great almighty, and now they're sitting behind their father, who is now facing charges with conspiracy to murder of Tammy Daybell, as well as first-degree murder charges of Tammy Daybell. Let's not forget about the insurance fraud. So right now, everything that he's done, that he is alleged to have done, this is going to affect his children tremendously. They're taking their finances away, their family away. Basically, Chad has taken their life away. There's no more Tammy Daybell. And he has the galls to sit there and continue to accept the children's support after allegedly taking their mother away from them. You can't get any more selfish than that. Because in that courtroom, you don't see any remorse. You don't hear, "I'm sorry." All you see is a man hoping that he can get away with what he has done and continue on in his life. He has stolen away the life of so many people. Just absolutely ripped away their future and other people's futures with those people. But he wasn't alone. He was with Lori Vallow. And a lot of people are suspecting that maybe Chad is going to be pushed off as the main mind of all this. So who else was at court? Well, Kay Woodcock was there. We didn't see Larry, but we did see Colby Ryan. I haven't had time to check into who the blonde lady was. And then you had Ian's ex-wife, Natalie Pawlowski. And then also, as I mentioned before, Chad's three of his children were there. So we are hearing that, there was a possibility for the death penalty for a few of these charges, as well as a life sentence. And we're hearing speculation that the death penalty might be something that's not going to be on the table. Why? Well, because these guys do not have a history of crime on record. And this gets to me, and this is very worrisome because many of us want the death penalty. We believe that they deserve it. This was not an act of passion or anything like that. This was cold, calculated, planned, premeditated murder. In fact, if the investigators had caught on to what they were doing back when Brandon Boudreaux was shot at, Tammy was shot at, and Charles was, killed. That would have been several strikes on her record. But they didn't get caught. And the truth of the matter is, Chad and Lori Vallow are now alleged serial killers. You don't hear people talking about that, but that's the truth. These are now serial killers, allegedly. And they were cold enough to take the lives of innocent children that did nothing to them. So definitely, I feel that the death penalty, I hope Rob Wood puts it back on the table and follows through. We have a lot of petitions out there. We have petitions for Joseph Ryan, but I haven't seen a petition for these two to get the death penalty. Now, Rob Wood has 30 days, or less than 30 days now, to say whether or not he will decide whether or not they can, one of it's going to be the death penalty. Had the hiccups, sorry. So, yeah, this just really irritates me, guys, because he doesn't have a history of crime. He just doesn't have it on paper. He has misled, lied, and manipulated his entire life. And it's only gotten worse. It's now taken the lives of so many innocent people. His own wife and 2 innocent children. Share below what you think about the death penalty. Are you for it or are you not? Share why you think the death penalty should be applied or why not. One thing I do know is that Kay and Larry Woodcock both wanted the death penalty. And they have a lot of people backing them. This is just logical. So we're learning some information on Lori Vallow that on March 8th, Lori has an order, they have concerns about her competency. She receives an evaluation where she is said to need to have her competency restored. There's supposed to be a hearing in June 16th of 2021, and that the state was going to contest that diagnosis and eval. But before that date could come along, on June 4th of 2021, the state withdraws the contest. And at this point, a lot of people are questioning Rob Wood's motive. Is he falling for Lori Vallow's game? One thing he needs to be certain of is he dots his I's and crosses his T's. He doesn't want anything to come back and, mess up the justice. So a lot of people feel that Lori might be playing a game, and they know this because in the past, when Charles was trying to get an evaluation for Lori, she passes that evaluation and with flying colors. Lori refuses. She doesn't want a mental evaluation. Then here we see her being very compliant and easygoing. People believing that she's just stringing people along or the system. So a lot of people are wondering, think, especially her family members. She's got to wake up and realize what she's done. She knows what she has done. I don't think her family realizes just how lost Lori has been for years and years. Now, I'm not saying I'm not for her getting help, because she does need it. She needed it when Charles asked for it, and before then. She needs help. I hope she gets the help. Because if she does get help, maybe then she can accept what she did was wrong and at least have some kind of regret. She hurt her own children. This doesn't make sense since her family says she has put her children as number one in her life. Well, I hear hints that that's not true, because Charles says to Zach, Lori's nephew, when he was concerned about her belief system was getting kind of strange, they were talking about it, and Charles kind of says, just let her alone, let her be happy. She's cooking dinner and taking care of JJ. This leads me to believe there's been points that she's not taking care of JJ the way that she's supposed to. So that is my speculation and opinion of Lori Vallow at this time. I have a lot of questions about Lori's supposedly behavior being something that was real, especially when it comes to maintaining bonds with husbands and children. But one thing I will stick to, no matter what the outcome is on her evaluation, is she knows right from wrong. She should have not ever agreed if she was being guided, or planned if she was the leader to hurt her own children. Looking back in Lori Vallow's history, we know she has done some questionable things, and most of the time those attacks or drama in her life was not necessarily attached to her religion, but her personal feelings against someone like Joseph Ryan. So for prosecutors, if they wanted to take up for Lori Vallow and say that she really believed in what she was doing, well, she might have believed some of it, but her actions have always been there and subject to violence and attack that's not even related to her belief system. I think she gets incredibly interested in this fame with this group, the podcast, the books, becoming an author. And she couldn't do that and be a mother because it took so much time and she needed quiet. She couldn't continue to make podcasts with JJ screaming in the background. In my personal opinion, and not to hurt anybody, I believe that she's a very selfish individual, and the children were just getting in her way. As far as her mental status, I have nothing to really say too much on that because I am not a psychiatrist. But do I think she has issues? I believe she does. And we know at this time that Lori Vallow will be getting mental health care to restore her back to her competence. An interesting statement was they mentioned in the documents that she's not dangerously mentally ill. I'm not certain what that means. If Lori is found guilty, there's no doubt in my mind that Lori is a very dangerous serial killer. How hard is that to grasp? Because you have all these other things factoring into this case that it keeps actually making you procrastinate and not even think about the reality of the situation. If convicted on the charges, found guilty, then these two are serial killers. Some of the worst. Anyways, guys, I've got to go, and I would love to finish this, but I can't. But I've been, I shared a lot of things that you guys have shared with me on this, so you'll probably hear that throughout this video. Don't forget about these girls. They're still missing. I'm going to try to get their stories updated when I can. And I love you guys. Have a great weekend.